Imagine a prisoner so dangerous that even the most secure prison isn't enough to contain him. A man whose thirst for blood didn't stop, even after he was locked away. He didn't just survive in prison, he thrived in chaos, turning the very place meant to rehabilitate criminals into his personal hunting ground. This is the terrifying story of a man who killed 8 inmates while behind bars. His presence alone is a threat, forcing authorities to take extreme measures, including placing him under elite commando security, a level of protection usually reserved for high-profile terrorists or world leaders. What makes this prisoner so lethal? How did he manage to kill inside one of the most secure environments? And what special precautions does the prison take to ensure he doesn't strike again? Let's dive deep into the chilling reality of the world's most dangerous prisoner, a killer inside the prison walls. For most criminals, getting caught and sent to prison is the end of their violent streak. But for this man, prison wasn't a punishment. It was merely a new battlefield. From the moment he entered, he asserted dominance, striking fear into the hearts of both inmates and guards alike. The first murder shocked the prison staff. The second killing raised alarms. By the time the death count reached 8, it became clear this was no ordinary criminal. Despite being in a highly controlled environment, he found ways to eliminate his enemies with brutal efficiency. Was it a personal vendetta? Or was he simply a predator, feeding off violence? Maximum security still not enough. Recognizing the grave threat he posed, prison officials placed him under maximum security. Yet, even that wasn't enough. No ordinary prison protocol could stop him. His cell was reinforced. He was kept in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. His every move was monitored by multiple CCTV cameras. Guards were given strict instructions never to approach him alone. Still, there was fear. If he could kill 8 men in a high-security prison, what else was he capable of? Why does he need elite commando security? This isn't just another dangerous prisoner. He's a walking weapon. His presence demands extreme measures. Instead of regular prison guards, an elite commando unit was assigned to monitor and control him. These men are not just wardens. They are highly trained professionals who specialize in handling the most unpredictable and violent threats. The prison authorities couldn't take any chances. If he was capable of eliminating trained inmates inside a secure prison, what could he do if he ever escaped suspenseful visuals to enhance the story? To truly capture the chilling nature of this prisoner's reign of terror, the video should include a dark, isolated prison cell, showing just how confined he is, yet still dangerous prison gates slamming shut, symbolizing the extreme security measures taken CCTV footage clips, showcasing the heavily monitored environment, crime scene images, blurred visuals of the aftermath of his attacks, a lineup of armed commando guards, highlighting the elite force assigned to him. Conclusion: the mystery continues. Despite all the security, despite all the precautions, one question remains. Is the world truly safe as long as he is alive? Some say he should never have been allowed to live. Others believe he is a case study in pure, unfiltered evil. One thing is certain, he is not just any prisoner. He is a legend of terror, a nightmare behind bars, and his story is far from over. In the dark world of crime, some names are whispered with fear, names that send shivers down the spines of even the most hardened criminals. Among them is Prisoner's Name, also known as the Butcher of Prison Name, or the Silent Death, nicknames earned through his cold and calculated killings inside prison walls. But before he became the most feared man behind bars, he was already a monster in the outside world. His story isn't just about violence, it's about a mind so ruthless that even prison couldn't break him. His criminal history, the path to prison. Prisoner's Name wasn't an ordinary criminal. He didn't start with petty theft or minor offenses. From the very beginning, he was a cold-blooded killer. His first known crime was the brutal murder of an entire family, reportedly over a drug deal gone wrong. Later, he became an enforcer for a powerful crime syndicate, carrying out high-profile assassinations. Authorities believe he was involved in over 20 killings before he was finally caught. His final arrest came after a high-speed chase and an intense shootout with law enforcement. When he was sentenced to life in prison, many believed his reign of terror was finally over, but they couldn't have been more wrong. The monster inside, murders behind bars instead of being contained by prison walls, he thrived in confinement. Within months of his imprisonment, his first victim, a fellow inmate, was found dead in his cell. At first, it was dismissed as gang violence, but then another inmate died, and another soon. The pattern became clear. He was systematically eliminating anyone who crossed him. The final count? 8 murders inside one of the most secure prisons in the country. No one could explain how he managed to kill so many, despite heavy surveillance. Some believed he had outside connections. Others thought he was a manipulative genius who controlled people from the shadows. Psychological profile, a mastermind or purely violent psychologists and criminologists have studied prisoner's name for years, trying to understand his mind. But their conclusions remain terrifying. Not just violent, but highly intelligent. He carefully planned every attack, ensuring minimal evidence, zero remorse. He never once showed guilt for his crimes. Instead, he often smiled during interrogations. Manipulative and charismatic. Despite his crimes, he had influence over other inmates, convincing some to do his bidding. Unpredictable and ruthless. He didn't kill for money, revenge, or survival. He killed because he could. Some say he is a criminal mastermind, always thinking 5 steps ahead. Others believe he is simply a monster, one who enjoys killing and cannot be reasoned with, a prisoner. Unlike any other authorities have dealt with dangerous men before, but never someone like him. No matter how secure his confinement, he remains a living threat, one that even elite commandos struggle to control. And the terrifying question remains, is he truly contained? For most criminals, prison is the end of their violent reign. But for prisoner's name, it was just the beginning. He didn't just adapt to life behind bars. He turned prison into his personal hunting ground. Despite 24/7 surveillance, strict security, and limited access to weapons, he managed to kill 8 prisoners inside one of the most secure facilities in the country. Each murder was brutal, precise, and left authorities baffled. How could one man, locked away, continue to spread terror? Let's uncover how he did it. How did he manage to kill 8 prisoners? Despite security, prisoner's name was no ordinary inmate. He knew how to exploit weaknesses in the system, weaknesses that even the best security measures couldn't fully eliminate. 1. Using the prison hierarchy to his advantage. Prisons have their own power structures, and he quickly rose to the top. He made alliances with other dangerous inmates, using them as tools to carry out his dirty work. Through bribery and intimidation, he gained favors from corrupt guards who turned a blind eye at critical moments. 2. Turning everyday items into weapons. He didn't need guns or knives. He was a master of improvised weapons. He used sharpened toothbrushes, metal bed frames, and hidden razor blades to kill with precision. In one case, he allegedly strangled a victim with a bedsheet, leaving no evidence behind 3. Striking. When least expected. He studied his targets, waiting for the perfect moment when guards were distracted. Some murders happened in crowded areas like the prison yard, quick, efficient kills before anyone could react. Others were in isolated cells, where he made sure the victim wouldn't be found until it was too late. Were these random killings or targeted assassinations? At first, the prison authorities thought the murders were random acts of violence, but after multiple deaths, a disturbing pattern emerged. Each victim had a connection to him. Some had challenged his power, others had refused to follow his orders. Some were former gang members he had a past rivalry with. A few were informants, prisoners who had cooperated with the guards. One was a guard who mistreated him, found dead under mysterious circumstances. These weren't senseless killings. They were planned executions, carried out with terrifying precision, reaction of prison authorities, special measures taken. As the body count rose, panic spread through the prison. Guards feared him, Inmates whispered his name in terror. The warden was under pressure to stop the killings, but no solution seemed to work. Here's what the prison authorities did in response: 1. Isolation and maximum security lockdown. He was placed in solitary confinement, locked away for 23 hours a day. His cell was reinforced with unbreakable glass and surveillance cameras. No other inmates were allowed near him. 2. Special escort by armed commandos. Normal guards were no longer trusted to handle him. An elite commando unit was assigned to transport him whenever he needed to move. These men carried live ammunition, a rare protocol for prisons. 3. Limited human contact. He was denied access to common areas where he could interact with other inmates. His meals were delivered through a mechanical system, reducing the risk of direct contact. Even his legal visits were monitored under extreme security. 4. Psychological evaluations. Criminologists and psychologists studied him, trying to understand his mindset and motives. Some believed he was a psychopath with no remorse, while others thought he was a cold, calculated strategist. Despite these measures, one terrifying question remained. If he could kill 8 prisoners in a secure facility, what could he do if he ever escaped final thoughts? The nightmare continues. Prisoner's name wasn't just another violent inmate. He was an anomaly, a predator who thrived even in captivity. No matter how tight the security, he found ways to kill. His legend spread far beyond prison walls. Some called him the devil in human form. Others believed he was a genius who played the system like a chessboard. But one thing was certain: he was unlike any criminal authorities had ever faced. And despite every precaution, the fear remained. Would he ever strike again? In prisons filled with murderers, gangsters, and criminals, Prisoner's name is the only one who requires elite commando-level security. Ordinary guards are not enough to handle him. He is a predator, even inside a cage. Prison officials took this extreme measure not out of caution, but out of necessity. Reasons: he requires unmatched security. 1. He has already killed 8 prisoners inside a maximum security prison. Who knows how many more he could target? 2. He is highly intelligent and manipulative. He exploits weaknesses in the system. 3. If he ever escapes, he will be an unstoppable force, going after past enemies, law enforcement, or those who wronged him. 4. He is unpredictable. Nobody knows what he will do next. Because of this, no ordinary prison staff is allowed near him. Whenever he is moved, he is surrounded by armed commandos, the same kind used for counter-terrorism operations. His special prison cell and extreme restrictions. Prison officials knew that no ordinary cell could contain him, so they built a high-security, custom-designed prison cell specifically for the most dangerous criminals. Inside his cell, 24/7 CCTV surveillance. Every angle of his cell is monitored. Bulletproof and reinforced doors. No one can approach without strict authorization. Solitary confinement. He is completely isolated from other inmates. No direct human contact. His food is delivered through an automated system. No metal or sharp objects allowed. He can turn anything into a weapon. Restricted communication. He is not allowed to speak with other prisoners to prevent him from forming alliances. These extreme measures exist to ensure that he cannot harm anyone and that no one can help him escape. Has he ever tried to escape? Despite the tight security, he has attempted to escape twice, and both times he came terrifyingly close. 1. The first attempt: corrupt guards. He bribed prison staff to open his cell at night. Just before he could step out, an alarm was triggered, and commandos intervened. After this incident, his security was doubled, and corrupt guards were fired. The second attempt: a deadly ambush. While being transferred to another prison, a heavily armed gang attacked the transport convoy. Their goal: free him at any cost. A fierce gunfight erupted, but the commandos managed to repel the attackers. After this, authorities changed protocols. His movements are now classified, and an armed helicopter provides aerial surveillance during transfers. Have there been attempts to kill him? While most inmates fear him, some have tried to take him down. But every attempt has ended in failure. He always survives. 1. The prison yard attack. A prisoner attempted to stab him, hoping to end his reign of terror. Instead, he overpowered and killed his attacker on the spot, without even using a weapon. After this, prison officials banned him from entering common areas. 2. Poisoning attempt. Some inmates conspired to poison his food, hoping it would finally eliminate him. However, he sensed something was off and refused to eat. Now, all his meals undergo rigorous security checks before reaching him. Is the world safe? As long as he is alive? Even with these extreme security measures, prison authorities and law enforcement ask the same terrifying question: is the world truly safe as long as he is alive? Because one thing is certain: prisoner's name neither fears, surrenders, nor stops. Despite his horrific crimes, both inside and outside prison, the authorities have struggled with a single question: what do you do with a man too dangerous for the outside world, and even for the prison itself? There have been multiple discussions about his fate. Some argued that execution was the only way to ensure he never killed again. Others believed he should be locked away in an underground high-security facility, cut off from the world forever. Current status: he has not been executed, his crimes are too complicated, and legal loopholes have delayed any final verdict. Some sources claim he has been moved to a secret high-security prison, a facility built to hold the most dangerous individuals. There are rumors that he is kept in complete isolation, with no contact with the outside world. But the truth, no one knows for sure. The authorities have erased his prison records from public databases. Some claim this is to prevent any escape attempts, while others believe it is to hide the fact that they don't know how to deal with him. Is there any chance of release? Legally speaking, his release is impossible. He has a life sentence with no parole. But history has shown that no prison is truly inescapable. There are 3 main dangers that could lead to his release. 1. An inside job. If corrupt officials get involved, he could walk free, just like other powerful criminals have in the past. 2. An outside rescue. His past connections could attempt another high-risk prison break, and this time they might succeed. 3. A legal loophole. If the right lawyers take his case, he could manipulate the justice system and argue for transfer to a less secure facility. Authorities know this risk, which is why his location remains undisclosed. But as long as he is alive, there is always a possibility, no matter how small, that he could return to the outside world. Final thoughts. A man too dangerous to exist? There are serial killers, mob bosses, and ruthless criminals in every prison. But prisoner's name is different. He isn't just a murderer, he is a force of nature, someone who bends the system to his will. Even in prison, where security is at its highest, he has remained in control. He has killed, manipulated, and nearly escaped, despite being surrounded by armed guards.